Jake, I have figured out how Rump survived the coronavirus. And I'm not surprised that you didn't put this together in that head of yours.
Okay, I'm listening.
They went to the island.
Epstein Island?
No. No, not Epstein Island. Do you remember the 2005 movie called The Island?
No.
Okay. Follow me on this. This might be conspiracy theory, but I'm going to run with it because this is the only thing that makes sense how a man that all the odds
Careful what you say though about conspiracies. Trump might retweet it.
All the odds were against him in getting the coronavirus. Now, my little brothers, I've mentioned it before, he thinks it was all a hoax where he really didn't have it and he was trying to play the sympathy card. I think he had it, but I think the way he survived it is because of what was displayed in the movie The Island back in 2005, a 2005 American science fiction action thriller film directed by Michael Bay. In this island,
lots of explosions.
In the movie, there's nothing but clones of famous people that have perfect bodies. And when those famous people get hurt or sick, they get their clones from the island, harvest their organs, and put them in the person that's sick. So they went to the island and got Trump new lungs, killed his clone, took the clone's lungs and put them in Trump. And it only took 3 days to do it at the hospital. And that's how Rump survived the coronavirus.
So it's like a new take on the whole like Elvis is on an island with Kurt Cobain or whatever.
I'm surprised you're not familiar with the movie The Island.
No, yeah, I've never heard of it.
From
I hate Michael Bay, so.
Oh, well, then that's probably why. It starred Ewan McGregor and Scarlett
Obi-Wan.
Johansson.
Obi-Wan and Black Widow. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I have a conspiracy theory on how he kicked it. For one, he had the best medical staff ever because he's the president. Experimental drugs, Regeneron, all the steroids, all that stuff. But I also
he's also buddy with the Regeneron CEO.
I heard that. I also heard, or I didn't hear, but my conspiracy theory is Trump had a full blood transfusion. Just a needless amount of blood that could have been used elsewhere was used for Trump. That's my conspiracy theory. That
it would be very difficult to bounce back from a full blood transfusion in 3 days.
Hey, man. I don't know. He's the president.
I'm
Chock him up with steroids and...
I'm surprised he hasn't played the Jesus card yet. With the whole 3 days he rose again thing. I bet you anything he sat down with his advisors that he rarely listens to and said, hey, I've been resurrected from the coronavirus.
I'm still not convinced he's fully over it, honestly. I know he did that town hall and I watched it.
I did. But I caught a little bit of Biden's town hall, but I watched nothing of. I saw one 15-second clip of Rump's town hall with that girl flirting with him, where she got up and she was all pretty much. Yeah. She didn't even get up. She was so moist. She just slid out of her chair to ask that question.
She gets up and she goes, "Trump, I'd just like to say, you have a nice smile."
After the town hall, some guy in a dark suit with dark sunglasses grabbed her, and now she's probably being held in the bunker at the White House.
Oh no.
Jesus.
So interestingly, I wanted to point this out. Trump likes to boast about his numbers.
No, he doesn't. Trump boastful? The hell you say?
He's always like, my rallies get the most numbers. Fox News gets the most numbers when they talk about me, blah, blah, blah. Biden only gets 15 people. Well, interestingly, at least the night after it happened, Trump's, and this was just the live streams, right? Trump's live stream, which was on NBC, that live stream had about 500,000 views. Biden's live stream, which was on ABC, that one had 2.5 million views. So I think that's pretty interesting. I think more people are just, if you are an undecided voter, I think the only reason you'd be an undecided voter right now is whether or not you want to vote at all. That's the only reason I could see
Good point.
you being an undecided voter. It's not like I'm undecided versus Trump versus Biden. You're probably undecided more on the point, like, I don't know whether to vote for Biden or no one at all.
Yeah, whether you're going to actually go to the polls and vote in totality. That's the rub.
I think a lot of those people were like, well, I'm going to check out the Biden thing just because I want to know what he has to say. And I think Biden did okay. I will say I watched it and I was like, man, I fucking hate Biden. But he's what we got. So,
like Charlemagne the God said, Biden is not the answer, but he is a path to the answer. Now Charlemagne the God was speaking more on equality and more balance and justice for African Americans, but still, as I've said before, and I will say it again, he's not Donald Rump.
Yeah.
That's what's important here. I'd vote for a dancing circus monkey right now over what we have going on in the White House today.
Yeah, I hate both of them, but I hate one far more than the other. So
hey, but we got Kamala.
That's true. I kind of hate her too, but that's okay.
Oh God, Jesus Christ!
They're all politicians, man. I don't know.
Well, at the end of the day, they are all politicians. And what's at the root of the word politician? Lie.
That's true. Well, let's start the show.
5, 6, 7, 8.
What is up, boyos? This is the Jake and Cory podcast. I am Jake. That is Cory. What's up, Cory?
What's up, Jake?
Not much. Just, rolling down the street, seeing people with giant Donald Trump flags. It's super interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a question for you. Have you ever been catfished?
Have I ever been catfished?
Yeah.
I think so.
I think so. What does that mean?
I don't know. Well, in order to be catfished, you have to be on like dating sites and whatnot, right?
I guess, or someone could hit you up on Facebook, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not on any dating sites, so I don't know if I've ever been catfished. I've been maybe blown off or brushed off, but as far as catfish, the definition of catfish is like, you're on a dating site and you start this dialogue back and forth with somebody and then they're not who they say they are, right?
Yeah, basically.
So, no,
I've never been catfished. I've only been salmoned. But
no, I've never been catfished because I'm not on dating sites, which is, I've thought about joining dating sites during this whole pandemic, but I'm like, what's the point?
What's the point? Yeah.
But no, I've never been catfished.
I was talking to a person and they're like, I think I'm being catfished. This chick, she's really hot and she's talking to me, but she's like asking me to send her like gift cards.
Oh, you're an idiot.
Like, what do you mean? And then he shows me a picture and I'm like, that's Dillian Harper, the porn star.
Now,
pretty sure you're not talking to Dillian Harper.
I will say that it was many years ago. It was, you're not talking to Dillian Harper. It was many years ago, Jake, that my pictures were used in someone else catfishing someone else. Many years ago, like when I first launched my show and it was getting a little notice and we were everywhere around the city and, we were, trying to get as much publicity as possible when the show first started. my pictures did show up on a fake Match.com profile.
Oh.
And it was interesting because we had
so
Match.com
they were using you as
sponsor.
the fish.
I was the fish. Now, I think I kind of think that maybe it was more than a fish. Maybe it was more like a beluga whale. But nevertheless, I was being used.
Cat
and it was,
beluga
it was,
world.
yeah, I was cat beluga. But my pictures have been used, and it was just a handful of pictures from my Facebook page at the time. But that was like many, many, many years ago. But I've personally never been catfished. You know what? Quite honestly, I would love to be catfished, because then when I find out that it's a catfish and that, like, you know how I've actually seen the TV show Catfish a few times.
Yeah, it's a fun show.
And when they go and, like, let's say that it's a guy being catfished by another guy. Mm-hmm. When I meet the person who was catfishing me and they were posing as a girl, and then I meet them and it turns out that they're a guy. All right, well, you were interested in me, so let's just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Take your chances off.
At this point, you know what I mean? I was thinking about this the other day. When you get to be the age that I am, ancient, your sexuality changes year by year. And what that means is that your morals drop. And you're starting to get closer and closer. You're not straight. You're not gay. You're not bisexual. You are just flex sexual, where you're just willing to get whatever you can get, no matter what avenue it comes in.
Hey man, whatever floats your boat. I've been open to it. The whole flex sexual thing.
You're not as old as I am, Jake. You still have a chance. My chances are winding up day by day.
I can't get over the whole dick thing, that's really hard for me.
So what you're saying is that you can look at a guy, you can say he's good looking,
yeah,
you maybe think that he's attractive, but then when the underwear comes down and the dick flops out, you're like, this ain't for me.
I'll suck on the nips a little, I'll do all that stuff, caress the abs. And then, and then the dick flops out, and I'm like, I don't know, man. That's just weird.
I don't know. So you're gonna piss off some dude 100%. When you get to be my age, Jake,
if you are into it, if you're into that elephant trunk thing, more power to you. But it's just not my thing.
But if you're my age, Jake, you're just trying to get it wherever you can get it at this point, short of paying for it, which you can't do in Arizona anymore because they'll throw you under the jail now.
Anymore? Was it legal at one point in Arizona?
No, it wasn't legal at one point. They just weren't policing as hard for it. But it's interesting that Maricopa County started policing paying for sex a lot more during the pandemic. There were so many people that were stuck at home. You know what I mean? They were, pretty much.
They got to keep those prisons full.
They were just, ordering, and it has a lot to do with the sex trafficking that happens a lot in Arizona. So they started policing more. You know what I mean? The days of driving up to an acceptable looking streetwalker are over. The fines are no longer cash. It's jail time.
I think to bring it to policy, I think, the best way to just get rid of like sex trafficking, and you'll never get rid of it fully, unfortunately, which is the unfortunate truth. But I think the best way, we do have a huge issue with it here in Arizona specifically.
I want to know where that issue is. I have not seen any issue with sex trafficking.
Well, if we knew where it was, it wouldn't be an issue, would it?
Yes, smart ass.
I'm serious though. Like, if we knew where to find it, we would take care of it.
I just want to know where it is because I would like to maybe drive in that traffic.
Oh my god!
Not the underage ones. I'm talking about the ones that are sex trafficking. The good looking people from Mexico and Spain and Brazil.
You need to stop digging, son.
I'm fat.
I think the best way to deal with sex trafficking is the same way we deal with drugs and abortion, really. If you
legalize it.
Yeah. If you look at the stats of abortions, the number of abortions went down as soon as it was legalized. And it's much safer now when people do get abortions. Drugs, same thing. Drug usage goes down when you legalize it. You could look at tons of different countries who have done it. Specifically, with weed and stuff, the number of underage pot smokers went down substantially in places like Colorado and Washington. Just do that with prostitution. Make it legal, make it safe. Sex work is a job, just like any other job. Just make it safe for everyone, and we wouldn't have as big of an issue. It seems like very obvious, but I guess not. I guess it's not obvious.
It comes down to that one thing that I've always said. The reason why something that seems to be egregious, like prostitution or drugs, the reason why those things are unlawful is because the laws haven't figured out a way to profit from it. Las Vegas has figured out a way to profit from prostitution. Well, that's why it's legal. It's legal there. And drugs, and the reason why pot is not legal federally is because the feds haven't figured out a way to profit from it and control it. That's the only reason why it's illegal.
I think it's more than that too. They can profit off of it easily. You can just look at Colorado and Washington. The thing with it, though, is like with weed specifically, all that money goes to the state. It doesn't go to the federal government.
Right, but you do realize that it's still a federal crime.
No, I get you.
To smoke pot.
So what I'm saying is, if these things become legal, like weed and prostitution, all that money is going to be going to the states. And the federal government doesn't want that because instead it can be illegal. And they can arrest these people and put them in federal prisons, which are privatized and making tons and tons of money by sending more and more people to prisons. That's why they want it illegal, because they profit off of people being in prison.
Yeah, so I guess that the profit margin for prisons is higher than the profit margins for legalizing marijuana. I'm telling you right now, I've already voted, and I voted yes on legalizing marijuana in Arizona. Yeah, and then I saw that one little news spin on some Karen claiming that I had to move out of my residence because my neighbor smoked pot and the smoke was coming in through my air conditioning unit. Well, bitch, stop buying your filters at the dollar store. And you won't get pot into your air ducts and whatnot. And she's probably just tripping because she probably got some pot and it wasn't good. It had stems and seeds in it.
Well, weed does smell. I will say that. But
smells
here's
good.
The thing. Yeah, I don't mind it personally. But, you know what else smells? Karen's fat ass smells, first of all.
Yeah.
Second
and her
of all,
dry twat.
Yeah, that dry... Speaking of beluga whales,
that dry desert twat.
Speaking of catfish, sure smells a lot like that. But you know what else? Cigarettes smell too, and those aren't illegal. So
right. Well, this whole country was built on tobacco and firearms and alcohol. So,
and I'm cool with all that stuff too.
It's amazing what our federal government will find the best profit margin on. They get a lot of profit off of cigarettes and tobacco and firearms, and those things are way more dangerous than getting a snarling for $25 down on Washington Street. Or, puff passing a peace pipe around your living room with your homeboys.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with firearms. I'm very cool with that. My thing is, and I think it's Switzerland. Switzerland actually gives guns to their citizens. which is crazy.
Smart.
But the thing they do when they give you those guns is you go through a large training course on how to use a gun properly. And they have like no gun crime at all. So maybe that's our solution. I'm not saying we should give everyone a gun because that's just trouble waiting to happen. But if we could have just at least to the equivalence of like, how you like get in a car and drive around with someone and you get a driver's license that way. If we do that with guns, that'd be cool. I think I mentioned that last week. Maybe.
Yeah, you did. It's amazing how it's easier.
We talk so much. I repeat myself too much.
It's amazing how it's easier for a dumb person to get a gun than it is for a dumb person to get a driver's license in this country. But with Switzerland, what they're doing is that I look at that as them empowering their citizens. It's an empowerment thing. And the reason why I believe there are so many people in this country, the United States, that doesn't want guns on the street is because you take the guns away. You now have the people that want to take the guns away from people in America are the people that had all the guns. And they believe that, if we have the guns and the citizens don't have the guns, we have the upper hand, which is the reason why the Second Amendment was written. I think some, true. I agree with that. I also think some of the like anti-gun rhetoric, comes from like a misguided place. I think people just see, shootings in schools and stuff and think, well, let's just take the guns away. And it's like, well, I think there's a better solution. Obviously, we're doing something wrong. And we can all agree on that something is wrong with the way we police guns. But I don't think just outright taking the guns away is going to help anything. In fact, I think it might make it worse. Well, it's going to go back to your previous point, Jake, where you said that when drugs and things were legalized in certain areas, you saw drug use and you saw, and I will say even crime, plummet because it was no longer a threat. People weren't having to. And the reason
it falls and it becomes safer is because you legalize it and you put regulations around it.
Yeah.
Because you put regulations around abortion to make sure it's safe. You put regulations around selling drugs to make sure it's not laced with anything. It's not, whatever. It's not.
Which is what they just did with e-cigarettes. They just did it with e-cigarettes. My company that I buy my e-cigs from, 95% of their stock just went offline at the beginning of this month because they had to submit those stocks for FDA approval. And they're still working to get those FDA approvals on those additional flavors, so they'll get them back eventually. But initially, they only submitted for their 3 top selling flavors, which fortunately mine was one, so I have no interruption in service. But they just put a regulation on it. You know what I mean? And regulation in U.S. Feds terms means the Feds found out a way to profit from it.
So sometimes, but like, I don't know. I think it's a very liberal stance to have regulations, and I think within reason it's the right thing. I mean, you look at, housing codes. It's good that we have regulations on housing codes. It's good that we have regulations on, malpractice in doctor's offices. It's good we have these sort of regulations within reason, obviously.
But dude, if you looked at all of the regulations that are on the books for our federal government, I think that the majority of them will be more for the fact that the feds can profit from it versus regulations being in place for the safety. Now, I will say that home building regulations are somewhat more, I feel may sway more on the fact that it's for the protection and the safety of Americans, and you don't have a house that, a big wind can come by and it could blow over. However, you can also look at that where there's a little small portion of that some of those regulations, in order to meet them, you have to spend more money in order to meet them. True. So I would say that a majority of the regulations, federal regulations, are for more so profit than people.
But sometimes you gotta spend money to make things safe. Sometimes, you know.
Yeah, you do, and then there's always going to be someone that's going to profit from that extra money that you have to spend in order to be,
like weed being legalized, but having regulations as far as like making sure it's safe, and also making sure that you have to be 21 plus and not being allowed to drive. I mean, these are good things. There's a balance to be had. Just either outright banning it or not is not the answer.
No, and I agree with you on that. And I voted, like I said, I voted to legalize weed. But let me play devil's advocate with you one moment here, Jakaroo. Let's say weed is legalized on the federal level.
Uh-huh.
And do you believe that we will see the equivalent of moonshine in the weed game? Now, we have legal alcohol in this country, but we also have illegal alcohol with some backwoods hillbillies still making illegal moonshine. Do you feel that once weed is legalized, that we will see an industry uprise of moonshine-esque weed, where it will be a version of non-legal weed?
I mean, there's already like wax, like dabs. I don't know if you've heard of like dabs.
No, never.
It's basically it's like weed concentrate, and it just turns into this wax, and then you burn the wax, and you get super fucking high. But like, here's the thing, though, is like that should be legal too, as long as it's safe and not like, because the issue with wax sometimes is like people cut it with like some crazy chemicals. As long as that's regulated and make sure that's safe, that's cool. The difference between weed and alcohol, though, is you can't die from smoking too much weed. You just can't. Like, you could smoke and smoke and smoke and just keep doing it. You might pass out on your couch, but like you might watch way too much Ancient Aliens. But like you can't die from weed, but you can die from moonshine.
Yeah, but I'm saying that I'm using moonshine as an example. The process of moonshine, that there is still a element of moonshine that is illegal, though alcohol is legal. So there's the legal alcohol and there's the illegal alcohol. Do you feel that once we have a legal pot, illegal marijuana, we're also going to see an uprising in illegal marijuana? Because there's going to be people that are not going to want to follow and purchase the legalized marijuana. There are going to still be people that are going to want to make their own money outside of the regulations, like people do when they make moonshine. Moonshine is made outside of the federal regulation. Now, there is also a layer of legalized moonshine. I buy it in a restaurant off the 51 and Shea Boulevard. But there's still
the moonshine with cherries in it.
Oh, I've had a moonshine. I've had a moonshine float, bruh, and I was singing under the table. Were you at that? You were at that show. Were you at that show? No, you weren't at that show. It was a live show that we did at Bootlegger's Modern American Smokehouse, where they have a moonshine float.
Oh,
and it was delicious. And I needed a car at the end of that show to get me home. But do you think that there is going to be a legal version of marijuana, and then there's also going to be the dark market of illegal marijuana?
I'm just trying to think of what that would even be. You know what I mean? Like
the marijuana that's still cut with things that the regulated marijuana,
that will happen.
People are going to think that'll get them higher, that'll get them. And I mean, you got to realize people that have smoked marijuana for a long, long time, sometimes a small segment of those people may want a stronger buzz, and they don't want to go to something harder like a crack cocaine, so they go for some illegal marijuana.
I'll tell you, dude. And I haven't smoked weed in like years. Like, I
disagree with that. I think you'd make an amazing pothead.
Thank you. It gives me too much anxiety. I have nothing wrong with weed. If someone offered it to me on the street, I'd say no because of coronavirus. But if there was no coronavirus, I might take a puff.
Puff, pass. You're fucking up the rotation.
Yeah. But I when I was smoking, I would go to my friend's house and, we'd have stuff there. And anytime he had stuff from like the dispensary or like where you buy it legally, that shit is the strongest shit. Like that shit is gonna fuck you up so good. So like,
but it's a quick it's a quick fuck up though, because I've had it. I mean, allegedly, it's a quick fuck up. You get it, you get fucked up, and then you blink, and it's like, oh shit, I'm sober again.
I don't know, man. You eat some edibles, you're gonna be fucked up. You buy the pens with the wax in it, you're gonna be fucked up. Like, I don't know. Like, I think the reason people will like cut their shit with stuff is to make it cheaper.
Right, they want to make their own money, which is going to
but not to get you more fucked up. So I think like ultimately you're gonna just go to the dispensary because they've got good shit there.
So you don't think there's going to be a moonshine-esque industry for marijuana when marijuana is legalized?
I mean, I'm sure there will be some sort of shady shit. There's always shady shit with everything, right?
That's true.
But like, I think it will go down from now because like people buy wax now and it's like cut with like ethanol, and that's super dangerous.
That's extremely dangerous and flammable.
Yeah. So yeah, I think just legalize it. Legalize it.
Speaking of getting,
I think what could become an issue. Sorry to cut you off there. It potentially is people. Yeah, other drugs might become more of a market. So
well, you know what? That's
why I say we just legalize all of it.
That's been the argument for a while, where they look at marijuana and they say marijuana is a gateway drug. Now, folks, you're listening to two people that don't actively smoke marijuana, but yet we're clear supporters of it and have no problem with it. But I don't believe that there's been any scientific proof of marijuana being a gateway drug to other stronger illegal narcotics.
I would say it is a gateway drug right now in the incarnation it is. And let me tell you why. There's two big reasons why marijuana is a gateway drug to harder drugs. Reason number one, you're buying weed from a drug dealer who probably sells more than just weed. Weed is come on, buy some weed. And then he's like, hey, you want these pills? You want something else? I've got cocaine here, could be that. Reason number two, it's federally illegal. If you get caught with weed, not so much these days, but could still happen. If you get caught with weed, you go to jail, and that's a crime on your record. Now you can't get a job. Now you don't know what to do with yourself. You go to prison. People are doing drugs in prison. You might start doing drugs in prison. That's the only way I can consider weed a gateway drug. Now, if it's legalized, people are just going to smoke weed. It's not going to even be a big thing. It's going to be, it's going
to be regulated. It's not like the weed is going to be able to be sold, over the counter at Circle K or a gas station. Do you think it's going to hit that level of legalization?
Dude, fuck it. Like, if they, dude, if Marlboro wants to start selling like packs of joints at fucking Circle K and you have to show your ID to get it, I don't care. They sell booze behind the counter. Why not?
Well, you mentioned the fact that, weed can be sliced and spliced with other shit that is harmful to you. What's to say that a company like Philip Morris wouldn't get into the weed game themselves, and then 5 years from now, we find out that they're slicing it up with something that's illegal? I mean, they put tar in cigarettes, so
sure,
and that's legal.
Well, let me tell you why. Because my neighbor, who loves the Grateful Dead, he loves the Grateful Dead. He loves Ancient Aliens. He loves In Search of Sasquatch. That's his shit. That man, it becomes legal, and he's like, I'm gonna change my life. I'm gonna fucking open my own store. This man, he cares about his weed like a farmer cares about his tomatoes. This man is making the most quality shit. He is growing the most quality shit. He names his plants before he sells them, This man cares about his... Philip Morris doesn't care about his plants. And
Philip Morris doesn't care.
And weed is so easy to grow. And my neighbor, Stoner Tommy or whatever, this man...
Tommy.
This man can open a dispensary and it will be profitable because people love smoking weed, dude.
Maybe that's the threat against the feds. The competition is too high, And it's because it's so easy for people to grow it. So maybe the feds are saying if we legalize it, then we're going to have a whole lot of competition and we won't be able to get our tax money from companies like a Philip Morris.
Maybe, but they'll get their tax money from fucking, Grateful Dead Tommy next door.
Grateful Dead Tommy.
I
like Grateful Dead Tommy. Please tell me he wears Birkenstocks.
The other
Does he
thing,
wear Birkenstocks?
Oh, sure. He wears clogs. The other thing is weed is not, I don't want to say it's not addictive, but it's not addictive like nicotine or alcohol.
Nicotine and alcohol definitely have a higher addictive.
They say it's different, chemicals. Right? Like nicotine and alcohol are more physically addictive, where weed is more of a mental addiction, where you're just kind of stuck on it. Where you can get addicted to anything, you can get addicted to, I don't know, biting your fingernails. That's not there's no chemical that you're in.
It's a mental thing.
Yeah, it's a mental
thing.
Oral
fixation.
Right. Whereas nicotine and alcohol, that's actually a chemical you're ingesting that's very addictive. Yeah. So that's the other thing is I don't know. I guess they could put tar and shit in weed that's very addictive, but
I mean, because when you talk about dealing with these large corporations, when they're gonna, if weed is legalized, and these large corporations always find a way to cut corners, and a lot of times that has an adverse effect on the market, on the people that are utilizing it. That's the reason why we have Tide detergent that's more expensive, and we have, I mean, not to disparage it, we have Fabuloso. That is a cheaper, less quality of a product. So you're going to always have, when you talk about these corporations, mass manufacturing, you're going to have ways around it. Like when you go to a boutique bakery, you're going to get higher quality baked goods than you would if you just went to, and nothing against them, if you went and you bought a mass produced Hostess product. Mm-hmm. The Hostess product is going to use a layer quality.
I think the big difference with weed is the quality thing is for sure a thing, but that's already a thing. But you're just going to have shittier plants, and weed is so easy to, it's literally a weed. You can grow it in 2 weeks in your closet if you wanted to.
Ooh, I can't wait for weed to come out of the closet.
Well, and I think people will start doing that. They'll just start fucking growing weed in their garden. Why not?
I mean, isn't that how it is in Colorado? They regulate how many plants you can have and the size of the plant and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
I hope it passes in Arizona.
That's the thing with weed. If it becomes legal, it's pretty hard to make it a sinister sort of capitalist thing, because it's very easy to open a dispensary. Well, it's not easy. You have to grind it out just like anyone else opening a business. But as far as mom and pop shops, people are going to go to your dispensary because people want weed.
Even though I voted for it to be legalized in Arizona, it's still federally illegal. So you can get caught with weed and still be brought up on federal charges, which is where it needs to be placed on a national. It needs to be decriminalized on a national level. And I also think, Jake, the reason why it has
Kamala
not been
and Joe have both said they want to decriminalize it. So,
well, the reason why it hasn't been decriminalized is because then that's going to force the courts to go back and look at all of those African Americans that are in federal prison right now because they had a half of a dime bag of weed on them when they were pulled over during a traffic stop. It's going to make them go back and look at all of those cases. It's amazing how many African American men and women are in federal prisons right now because of just weed possession.
It's true.
You know what I mean? So it's going to make that legalizing it on a federal level, that may be the true Kickstarter to a lot of this racial injustice reform.
Absolutely, dude. That's why I'm a huge proponent for legalizing weed. It was on the ballot last time in Arizona.
And it failed. Yeah.
in Arizona, and it didn't pass. And I remember I have a friend who will remain nameless, but you know they're a pothead, total pothead, but they didn't.
Cory Blaze.
Yeah, it was Cory Blaze. No, it wasn't. But it was a friend, and he's a total pothead. But he didn't vote for it because he didn't like the way that it was written or something. I forget exactly what it was. He didn't like the way it was being legalized, and like he didn't like the regulations on it and shit. And I was like, dude, I really don't care. It just needs to be legalized. You know, like just legal, because it's a systemic issue, and that's the real problem with weed, what you stated earlier. People are going to prison for it because here's the thing. Everyone smokes weed. And so, you know, a white guy gets caught with marijuana, the cop is going to be like, go ahead, go home. But a black guy gets
marijuana. Takes the marijuana and sends a guy on his way.
Yeah, but a black guy, Hispanic guy, whatever, they get pulled over for no reason, but they find some weed in the car, jail. You know, it's just that easy.
Yeah. So it may be...
It's a huge systemic issue, and that's the real issue with weed being illegal. What's that?
It's a major issue, and that's the reason why, you know, like I said, Joe and Kamala, they've said they want it decriminalized on a federal level. That may very well be the start to, you know, reform when it comes to racial injustice. Because, dude, I've looked at it so much, and I've never really paid attention to it in the past, but dude, you look at some of these situations where African Americans receive more stringent sentences, and you have a higher probability of going to jail over something because you're an African American than you do, you know, if you're not black or brown. So that may be the spot. That may be the secret underlying reason as to why it's not federally decriminalized. It will make them look bad. Because, dude, if it is federally decriminalized, can you imagine all of the cases that would flood the courts?
Well, and it's
from
more than
currently jailed African-American men stating I was sent to jail over something. How in the hell would they even handle that? They have to release these guys?
And it's also just class warfare as well, because the thing with weed is, I don't have the numbers on me right now. Sorry, guys. Don't have the numbers on me, but I'm sure you could find the numbers somewhere. I would guarantee...
When do we ever have the numbers?
True. We're a bunch of rubes.
But we are.
You know, I would guarantee that the number of people who smoke weed is higher, you know, the lower your income, just because, you know, when you're poor, you just need something, you know?
I am going to push back on that just a little bit, Jake, because I have ran in some circles with some people that are very affluential. It's rampant in that community as well, dude. Because dude, they look for the escape as well. You know, True. I've been to
it reminds
around
me,
people that are worth millions and millions of dollars, and they you know, they're
I did state earlier, everyone smokes weed.
Yeah, everyone affluential, but it is a little bit more prevalent. It's more to the forefront of lower economic communities.
Well, it's because weed is so cheap.
Fact that it's there. Yeah, and it's very cheap. A dime bag. Where can you get drugs for $10?
It's like when you know, when the crack epidemic was huge. You know, that became, you know, class 1 drug. Well, because poor people smoked crack, whereas cocaine was listed as like a class 2 drug, even though it's the same fucking thing, because rich people smoke crack, or not smoke crack, they do cocaine. So yeah, it's literally class warfare, which unfortunately affects people of color more predominantly. So
well, there's definitely been stories that I've heard of. I have not read up on these, so take what I say as you will, but there are stories that I've heard of that illegal drugs at a federal level were released in predominantly black communities with the purpose of being able to institutionalize those individuals in that African American community for having those drugs when the drugs were put there by the system.
Yeah.
That makes them illegal. So you're right. It is a complete extension, if not the main root of systemic racism in the justice system in this country.
Systemic racism and class warfare.
And I love the fact that we are podcasters for Black lives, that we are not afraid to speak about this. You know what I mean? We're rubes. We've said that. We're rubes. We don't have all the details. We don't have all the numbers. But, I mean, come on. We understand.
Could, but we'd have to put in more time. And who wants to do that?
Yeah, but podcasters don't do that. Podcasters don't do. Internet radio hosts do. Podcasters no.
Yeah, you got the numbers over there on Fat Guy Radio Show.
On Fat Guy Radio Show, we do nothing but numbers. We just read from the book of Numbers in the Bible for 75 minutes every week.
The book of Numbers. Nice.
And he begot he, and he begot he, and Shabbat begot Bagula.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, I was thinking about this today. Actually, I was driving around, killing time. You know, sometimes I.
Just speeding by cops and waving, you know, at the black people that were pulled over on the side of the road. Shot
but, you know,
in
the time of Corona, there's not much to do. So sometimes I'm just gonna go on a drive. So
why would you drive by my house, Jake? Why would you drive by and just wave from the street? Why would you? Why would you, Jake?
I do. You're just not out there.
I'm talking to you from my Ring doorbell. I'm like, Jake, I'm here. Jake, I'm right here.
We can have dinner together. I sit on your front porch and we talk to each other through the Ring.
I would totally do that.
That'd be cute as hell. But I was driving around and, you know, I was thinking about the terms that we use as Americans. We talk about, you know, liberals and stuff, and we call those people progressive. Why is that's a bad word? And then we talk about, like, you know, what are the stances that these people uphold? Freedom of choice. You know, like, these are you just listen to the terms and you're like, how are these things bad? You know, and I don't know how the other side justifies their stance. Like, what is their stance? They think that abortion kills babies or whatever. That one I kind of get. But everything else, it just doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean?
A lot of the titles don't make any sense to me. I don't understand. I mean, I think the reason why it doesn't make sense is because there is such the true party is what we don't hear from. I don't think you hear very much or very often from the true Republican Party. I don't think you hear often from the true Democrat Party. I think what we hear from is either the far left and we hear from the far right. We hear from the extremists all the time. We don't necessarily hear from the true parts of these parties. And that's why we get caught up in a lot of those different terminologies that make no real sense. I mean, the media is not going to cover the boring truth. They're going to cover the exciting extremists.
I mean, what is a party, though, other than its political affiliation? You know, a Republican votes for Trump. Like, that's what they do. That's who they support. And if they're not voting for Trump, they're voting for fucking Ted Cruz, which is not much better. No. Mike Pence. Like, these are the people. Like, I don't get it.
Well, those are the people that the party chose to represent them. So they have to go all in, or they have to Cindy McCain them. They have to vote against their party. And I think
people have a hard time doing that.
People do have a hard time doing that. And I don't understand that. I don't understand how you can say I have to vote for them because they're part of my party.
It's so dumb.
Where you can just completely circumvent your humanistic morals.
It's why I never consider
myself.
I've never considered myself a liberal. I've never considered myself a Democrat. I have considered myself a hardcore communist, but that's something else.
That's the reason why I'm a registered independent, because I don't want to be tied down to either party. Yeah. I don't want anyone to look at me, and if I decide to Cindy McCain my party, I don't want people looking at me in that light. I want to say, you know what? I'm a registered independent. I'm going to vote however the fuck I feel like it, bro.
Well, because
I'm not part of your party and I'm not part of your party.
Above the fact that we are Democrat, Republican, whatever, independent even, libertarian, whatever you are, Green Party. Above that, at least hopefully above that, we are all American. And above that, we're all human.
See, what happens is that no one right now, it doesn't seem like anyone can see above that.
But
I don't think anyone can see past the red or past the blue.
Right now, what it seems is, what the layout seems is, I'm American, bottom. I'm human, bottom. I'm American, second, and I'm a Trump supporter, top. Like that.
Yeah.
And that's just.
Do you agree that there is a difference between a Trump supporter and a Republican?
It's a hard thing to answer right now. I
think that there is a difference between a Trump supporter and a Republican, because a Republican, I would say that Cindy McCain is a Republican.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard when like a lot of the Republican Party now is like, a lot of the senators buy into QAnon, and like most Republican Party members are, at least who are in office, support Trump. There might be your one or two that don't, Cindy McCain or whatever. But like, do you think that person would hate Trump as much if they didn't go after them personally,
I don't know. It literally just happened where a Republican governor or something like that said something against Trump, and now the whole Trump administration is going after him.
Yeah. I did hear, I watched Obama. Obama did an interview 2 days ago, and let me just say, I fucking love hearing this guy talk. He's just such a good talker, and you're just like, man, I wish you could come back and just. Because even if you disagree with him on policy, like, it's just listening to him talk, you're just like, man, this guy is so sound. He's like in the right headspace, and he's young. But like,
he's eloquent. And
he was talking about it, about this very subject, and about how a Republican, isn't necessarily part of the Trump thing. And if you go back in history, when it was Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, and it was the Democrats who were, and he said that, he's like, Democrats at the time were the ones. So like, things kind of, they fluctuate throughout time. And what really needs to happen is we need to stop doing this, like, one versus the other, and just focus on what matters. But, he also did mention, QAnon is now past the mainstream, and it's part of the mainstream. Trump won't denounce it at all. He says he doesn't know what it is, even though he's the fucking president. And
he knows everything, right? He's supposed to know everything.
He's supposed to know everything. And I don't know, man. We've railed on Trump enough. Like, I feel like what is there to be said?
Yeah, what's going to happen to this show after the elections?
We start railing on Biden, baby.
Oh, no. I'm working on my Biden impersonation now. No, we don't start railing on Biden. We start loving on Kamala. I have developed myself a little crushy poo on Mrs. Harris. Good Lord. Woo! I love her hair. I love her Oprah hair. It's so flowing and bouncy and full of body.
She does have that, like, hot mom vibe,
Oh, she is totally the hot mom, bro.
She's got the hot mom vibes.
I'm sorry to say, but I know we're up at the top of the hour here, approaching the top of the hour. Where do you stand on this Supreme Court justice thing? We have not talked about Amy Cobra Barrett, or whatever the hell her name is.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it seems inevitable that she's being
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But the way that it ties in, and I'll hit my talking points just really, really quick here. The reason why this is bad, even though it's clearly going to happen, is the fact of where Rump stands on transgender people, where he is trying to hinder them from, healthcare, and trying to hinder them from, like if a person that identifies as a male goes to a male homeless shelter, but their identity doesn't match their physical, they can be turned away. Thrusting people into circumstances that are a little hard. That's what's behind a lot of Rump's change of transgender people. And Amy Cobra Barrett, has been proven to be a staunch Catholic, and we're talking about a religion that has been known to not support LGBTQ lifestyles. The Catholic Church as such stands so against it that they produce sex offenders in their own church, some would say. And if people don't think for a second that she won't be loyal to the guy who appointed her, you're nuts. You're absolutely out of your gourd if you don't think Amy Barrett, when she's appointed to the Supreme Court or when she's confirmed, is not going to vote and rule on the side, or not going to search out a way to legally rule on the side of the guy who appointed her. And that ties back to the whole thing of, if the election doesn't go Rump's way and he pushes back and it ends up going to the Supreme Court, here we are again, which also leads us into the thought process of Biden wanting to stack the court. It has its balance and one other legislation. Here's the thing: the one legislation that I want to see when thinking about Amy Cobra Barrett and thinking about the Supreme Court, there's one major legislation that I want, Jake. One major legislation that I want. I want the end of these lifetime appointments. I want the end of these lifetime political roles. Where did these come from? I don't even think it's in the Constitution. I haven't done a full study of the Constitution, but I don't think our Constitution states that these particular political offices have to be lifetime appointments. I don't think that's in there anywhere. We've got to get rid of these lifetime appointments in political office. If the highest office, the presidential seat in the United States, has a term limit on it, why the fuck aren't the ones that are the offices beneath him on a time limit?
Well, I think
we've got to get rid of these lifetime appointments, man.
I think the reason that these are lifetime appointments versus, and I agree, I think a lifetime appointment for this is stupid. I honestly don't think it's even fair that, Ruth Bader Ginsburg had to stay in there as long as she did. She should have had time to just be an old lady and just, sit in her house.
I mean, and they can choose to retire.
Sure. Just like the Pope can, but they won't.
But they won't. But still, there should not be a lifetime appointment to any political office.
But I think the point is that these are not supposed to be political offices. They are judges. But it's just in modern times that these have become increasingly more and more political. I mean, they're there to, quite literally in their job, it's to interpret the law. Well,
Jake, you can say that a Supreme Court justice is not a political office, but a Supreme Court justice is appointed by a political figure, therefore, by association, making it a political office.
Yeah, and they all state what their affiliates are. If she gets appointed, it'll be a 6-3 stack, Republican, justice, which is insane. I think it's stupid that we're not waiting until this election is over. If Trump is so confident that he's going to win the election, this shouldn't be an issue.
He's not. He's not.
The thing is he's not. And the more you see him at rallies and stuff, which he is seeming more and more unhinged. I've watched a few of his rallies too. He just seems more and more unhinged. He seems
that's how his fear is surfacing.
Yeah.
That's how he's showing that he's a little scared.
So I don't know if he did that as a last-ditch effort just to get a Republican person in there, or if he did it as a last-ditch effort to get someone in there who will vote to allow him to stay in office if he loses the election.
Totally. Both ways, man.
Both ways it's fucked. One way is obviously more fucked than the other. I'm hoping that if it does come to that, and I'm really hoping it doesn't, I'm hoping Trump will just be like, okay, I don't even want to deal with it. It's gotta be an
undeniable, there has to be no shadow of a doubt that this is the way, and I mean, it has to be a fucking landslide election.
Yeah.
If it's close, we're going to the Supreme Court and we're going to deal with President Pelosi for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. But I'm hoping that, the justices who are there that are on the right, I haven't heard too much from them, except for like one of them who's a complete bozo. But I'm hoping that, they've been there long enough to be like, okay, this is fucked up and stupid, because most of them have been there, way back in the day, like.
Yeah, 40 years.
Yeah, so like they may actually find Trump to be a complete idiot too. So
yeah, because I mean that is a hope. Now, you know what, Jake? You bring up a very, very valid point. Yes, Amy Klobuchar, or whatever the fuck her name is. she is, she is an appointee by Trump, but all the rest of them are not.
True. Well,
so we're looking Jake, you just opened up my eyes. People are looking at it as a fact that it's a 6-3 Republican to Democrat ratio in the House. What we're not looking at is the 1-5 ratio.
Well,
of one being Trump appointed, or he appointed two.
Yeah,
two justices he's appointed.
Because
so
Kavanaugh.
two to what is it? 2-5. Right? Because there's a total of 6. 9. There's 9. Oh, even better odds. Even better odds.
But I do know of another one.
We're not looking at the appointees versus the existing setting. We're looking at the Republican appointees versus the Democrat appointees.
Ultimately, I don't think they're going to, if it does come to that where like they have to vote on like keeping Trump in office, they're going to vote against it just because they know that's going to cause riots in the street. Like they know it. But the real issue though, for me anyway, is there's a few. Roe v. Wade is a big one. They may decide to overturn that. Obviously I've been pretty outspoken on my stance on abortion and stuff like that. The other one is gay marriage. I know that one of them, I can't remember the guy's name, one of them is very actively against gay marriage and wants to see it overturned, and he thinks it's wrong that we have to subject, his quote was like, we have to subject Christian churches to this. It's like, what happened to separation of church and state? But these are the real issues, and then whatever else issue comes up, transgender, like you stated earlier, these are the real issues. And how do you feel about like Joe kind of talking about wanting to stack the court?
Well, you know what, if we are seeing that Rump is going to push the election to the point where he's going to force the Supreme Court to elect a president, I say stack that bitch. Stack it. Whatever has to whatever means necessary at this point, Jake, to end the reign of Rump. I don't give a fuck if we have to stack chairs in the Supreme Court. Stack that bitch. Stack it. We need this over. Stack it and then unstack it.
Wait
a minute. Can you unstack it once you stack a court? Can you unstack it?
I don't think you can unstack it.
Well, then I don't give a damn. Stack the bitch. Stack it.
Well, stack it. We could. It might be okay to have 12 justices in there. Why not?
I don't care. We can build more benches. We've got enough black fabric to make more robes. Stack that bitch if it's going to end this Trump reign. Stack it.
even if you throw 2 more justices in there, and we have an 11-seat court, I don't know how that makes much of a difference. But I think
think of it this way: if we stack it this year, a couple of those Supreme Court justices they're gonna die off next year anyway. So it'll be back down to normal. Stack that bitch, Biden. Stack it, Biden. This is Cory Blaze. Stack that motherfucker.
The real concern though is Amy Cobra Barrett, as you've been calling her. She's young. 50 something. She's young, and these motherfuckers live till they're like 100. So Kavanaugh, he's kind of young too, 60s, I think. It's pretty young for a justice. I think the real solution is, like you stated, term limits. Just put term limits on it, and they don't have to be 4-year term limits.
No, they could be 10
8 years.
Yeah, 8.
Make it 8-year term limits, and
every 2 presidential cycles we elect new Supreme Court justices. Dude, how come we're able to elect judges in our own individual city municipals, but we can't elect the judges in the highest court in the land? It should be the same thing. Those Supreme Court justices should have to campaign just like a presidential candidate does. We elect local judges. We should be able to elect federal judges in the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land.
True.
We should be able to do that.
And they could even throw it on like midterm elections and do it that way.
And another thing
do
about
like
elections,
8-year terms, and they can have a maximum of 2 terms. That's 16 years in the court.
16 years.
That's
and
plenty of
another
time.
thing, I want another legislation to be passed as well. I want pictures of candidates on our ballots. I do.
Why?
Because, dude, there are other countries that do that. You have a clearer idea of who you're going to vote for if you're able to see a picture of them on the ballot. I don't care if our national ballots end up being 4 fucking pages. Put pictures of these candidates on the ballots.
I don't care about that.
I want pictures. I do. I do.
When I go to McDonald's, I want to see the Big Mac.
I do see the Big Mac.
I don't like that because, let's be honest, Joe's forehead is terrifying. You see a picture of that, you might throw up before you vote him in.
Hey, send your ballot in with throw up
as
on
we
it.
all
Don't
know,
give a fuck.
As we all know now, Trump has a nice smile. So you get a picture of Trump smiling with Joe's forehead there. Ooh.
Of course, Trump would be sexually charging up the closest Karen at his rally.
Oh, one more thing about Amy Cobra Barrett. One more thing about Amy Cobra Barrett, the Cobra. I lost you. Fuck. There you are. Hello. One more thing about this justice, right?
Yes. Amy Cobra Kabai.
Did you see the video where they're like, what are the things that the First Amendment covers? And she's like, speech, assembly, blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, what is it? I can't remember. Like, she couldn't even remember. And like, I didn't either but I'm also not running for fucking the justice, the Supreme Court justice. This woman doesn't even know the legislation. Like, what the fuck?
Dude, it was astounding, but to her defense slightly, because I think in any other environment, she may be a very good appointee to the Supreme Court, but given the whole, turnaround, this situation, the timing is off for her. You know what I mean? She's kind of like
the pressure's on.
The pressure is really on her. So maybe she wasn't thinking.
But as a Supreme Court justice, should you not be expected to answer these questions under pressure?
100%.
I mean,
because
that is the point of the Supreme Court, is to make these decisions under extreme pressure, both politically and just in front of large crowds, and sometimes it's televised and you've got millions of people watching you. I mean, this is something you have to be used to as a justice.
Maybe she was just, I mean, maybe Justice Amy Cobra Kai was not just thinking at the time. And I don't know, just to give her a benefit of the doubt. I mean, that's a high pressure. I couldn't imagine that type of pressure, but still, that was a very simplistic question. It was kind of almost like asking, you know, a first grader. Yeah, a first grader. What's the first three letters of the alphabet?
It's the First Amendment. Like that's the first one you should know. But and also for America, the most important one. That's kind of our whole thing.
Yeah. But at this point, Jake, she could sit there and take a dildo out of her purse and pleasure herself, and she's still going to be appointed to the Supreme
Kavanaugh
Court.
got appointed and he fucking raped someone, so there it is.
You know what I'm saying? She's going to go through. There's nothing we're going to do about it. It's not even worth being upset. She could sit there and say that she is a staunch racist, and that she believes that white lives are the only lives that matter, and she will be wearing a black robe in a few weeks.
Well, and bottom line, Biden's not going to stack the court. The dude's too centrist to do such a thing.
Yeah, I wish he wasn't. I wish he'd stack the fuck out of that thing if it comes down to the point where the Supreme Court is going to make the decision on who's.
But Kamala might do it when he dies in a year.
Dude, how are we gonna celebrate when Biden is elected? I think we should have a live celebration.
I think so too.
When it's official, not after the election.
Yeah.
When it's official.
Yeah, when he's like inaugurated.
So like January.
Yeah. I'm down. We'll do something.
We should have a live celebration.
We'll do it in person, but we'll put up plexiglass and stuff. It'll be our first time getting together with some plexiglass and shit.
I am coming through that plexiglass, Jake, because I am so touch starved right now. There's no way that plexiglass is going to keep me from hugging you for 15 to 20 minutes.
That is the one fortunate thing for me. I hate being touched. So
yeah, that's why I'm going to touch you.
And you love it when people hate being touched. So
5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh wait, we got to do plugs.
Yeah, do your horrible plugs.
Yeah, Jake and Cory podcast every Monday. You're listening to it now. Thank you for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, big old subscribe button. Make sure you head over to the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Lonercast. We're doing a lot of stuff over there. It's been a lot of fun. I'd love more viewers. You don't have to donate or anything. I just want to talk to you, man. Just come on over.
You need to donate, bitch. This shit's expensive. You need to donate.
It is expensive. If you want to donate, that'd be cool. But really, I just want to talk to someone. I'm lonely. So the whole point of this channel, it's Lonercast. Also, check out the Loner Gamecast every Tuesday. Cory's flipping me off right now. Every Tuesday, big video game news happening all the time, with the new consoles coming out in just a month. I hope I can get a pre-order. Anyway, bye-bye.
Bye.